still couldn't get advantages for Wink and XinLiu. So now I'm really curious to see what they're going to try and go for in this bot side.
You and me both. I mean, this is a big risk. IG saying it wasn't the Zeri pick itself, but let's go back to the aggressive nature of Wink and XinLiu. The Nautilus open too. Dagda, they're going to try what worked in game number 1, but remember, that was against a Lucian Nami lane. This time around, I guess you'd say the same amount of mobility, but we've got a different flavor.
I'm curious if we end up going for something like the Braum here to try and go with Zeri, just to try and dissuade a lot of that aggression. Could also go for the Renata, but yeah, I think the Braum is a good shout here. You know already that IG are going to be playing a lot of dive and trying to like get in on your backline. So I think the Braum having that safety both for the lane and in team fights is going to play out great.
I just love how I've noticed, you know, we swap junglers this game around as a little tangent. Jiejie and Zika, and Shun just handshaking, I guess. Last game, Jiejie pretty clean on the Viego. Game 1, I'd say the same thing as well, but that's my side note out of the way. Dagda, solo laners are the topic because we still don't have mid or top from both of these teams, and we know that Scout had a pretty convincing game of the Corki. That's taken away. Game 1, Zika versus Flandre's all, and that Fiora was a thorn in his side, but no longer.
I mean, the Corki taken away means they're trying to get rid of Poke for Scout, and I think it's a good shout. The only thing I would be slightly worried about here is, like, Scout can also go towards things like the Ahri still, which I think can do relatively well against IG here. You've also got things like the Twisted Fate, which is a lot of the times banned as a respect towards Scout, which, if he wants to try and play towards side lanes, could help out, especially with Flandre having counter pick. It makes things a hell of a lot easier. And even the fact that Flandre has his pick of the litter here, we could always just see something like an Ornn come through here for Flandre as well in first rotation if they want to hold on to that counter pick for Scout.
But you're talking about side lanes, and that's my interest, right? How Scout affects it, how Yuekai affects it. Outside of the Ahri in game number 1, Yuekai last game, it was a Taliyah. It was impacting the map, but he couldn't get out of lane. And so that's why my curiosity is there as we get an early Kennen to the fact of how IG do it this time around. That's their bread and butter. Yuekai is built for moving. He's kind of like a miniature Duanbe from 2019.
Yeah, I thought we might actually see Scout go back towards the Zoe pick here, because if you want to like lean more in towards that pick, I think it could have worked out. So kind of surprised to see Flandre go directly for the Kennen, but perfectly happy it feels like to just go, hey, whatever you're going to bring to the table, I'm going to be all right. But Zika maybe goes back towards the Camille once more. We'll have to go and see.
All right, APAD mid jungle 2v2. So we get the same champion, hopefully refurbished in the third game. See how far Yuekai gets out of his laning phase. Dagda last pick has to be a blind towards the top lane. Sorry, not top lane. We've already got the top laner on the other side. What does Zika do? I mean, Gwen was nerfed, banned in the first game, and revisited apparently as well.
Yeah, I think so. The Gwen will have a bit of a tougher time now up against the Kennen in the early stages because it was directly for E that got nerfed. The magic resist on her W as well, going to be pretty nice for Flandre when he's able to get in towards the Shroud. But I think once the game goes on, again, we'll see Zika be able to control side lanes alongside Yuekai. So a lot of split push options and kind of the ability to outmaneuver EDG on the map. But with EDG going back towards the Viktor here in the mid lane, you good push, great team fighting for EDG, a good amount of range. IG still are going to have their work cut out for them because honestly, despite some of the main champions being banned away, these are still both very similar drafts from the last game.
It's just incredible to see EDG go back towards team fighting. They know their identity. EDG sticking to the tried and true. And when we talked about this series in each and every game, Dagda, we did talk heavily about the bottom lane. Once again, let's just remind our audience, we have a draven versus a Zeri. It does feel like both these teams looking for more stability in their bottom lane, more priority down there, as we highlighted at the start of the series too.
And that's the big difference maker here, is that although we have very aggressive AD carries on both sides, for the Braum, you're playing much more of a passive lane for EDG this time around, rather than being able to lean into that more aggressive playstyle with the range advantage coming through from the Renata and also just having the W to make sure that you don't go down. So I think there's a lot of stuff here that lacking the bailout is going to make a big difference here for EDG's side. So I don't think they'll try and play as heavily around the bottom end. Instead, they're probably going to be trying to play a little bit more again towards Flandre, look towards these neutral objectives like the Rift Herald, and use that to try and snowball gold efficiently in the mid game.
Well, let's see, because Jiejie this time around had to swap around to Shun's pick of the Xin Zhao from game 2. If I could not make that more complicated for people to understand, we've swapped junglers for the final game. And Jiejie has been on the Viego 2 games in a row. It has been something he's been really comfortable on, as we all know, from Worlds 2021. But we also know as LPL fans it is one of his strongest. We get into a game 3, and Shun this time is going to try and pilot it. And Dagda, my biggest question actually tends to be towards Yuekai. And if he can get out of the lane this time on this Taliyah and actually make IG's early game possible.
Yeah, I'm a little bit doubtful in this one because you've got Jiejie on the stronger early game jungler. He can kind of dictate a lot of the 2v2 in the mid lane, because if you end up showing up for the 2v2 here as IG, I just don't feel like you win it. Even if you manage to get, like, say, the unraveled earth down and Jiejie still dashes across it for the stun, just so much healing, so much damage, and the early game aggression from this Xin Zhao means it's nearly impossible to try and win that out.
As they try and start it off early once again. EDG invaded this side last game. Excuse me, that was actually IG who did that and opted in for vertical jungling. This time around, standard starts here with blue buff for blue buff. And I like as well, we've got some defensive warding from EDG towards their red side. Actually, some deep wards placed too. So they have a bit of information towards the Raptor camp, Dagda, and they'll be able to path out Shun, who is heading naturally towards that bottom side.
Yeah, I like that Shun is trying to play down towards this bot side a little bit more. I think Wink and XinLiu is your best option, especially with the Glacial Augment there from XinLiu, being able to try and slow up Viper, slow up Meiko, make it a little bit more difficult for them to escape. Maybe you can try and make some plays down there, and even as you can see already, they're playing aggressive.
Good little start here once again on the draven Nautilus. Meiko and Viper walk into a dredge line, and the trade heavily on Meiko, but still a good one from RG.
And you can see XinLiu already posturing, knowing that that next hook is going to be up just momentarily. So Viper has to give a wide berth to this bot side. It means that they won't be able to contest it right now. And maybe that gives a window for Shun to try and get some presence on the bottom side with like scuttle crabs and that kind of stuff. Maybe look for a play off the bounce back, as long as IG are able to correctly manage this wave.
Well, it's reached the turret for now. Good trading even underneath the turret. As they've hit level 2, they're confident as ever. That ward on Raptor camp, worth mentioning, Dagda, because Shun hasn't passed towards Raptors. Tried to go around it with the red buff. And that means that he's not spotted out. It expires. And Shun now heading towards the mid lane on top of Scout. I mean, this will be a quick gank, and Scout has to pop the Ghost, which is a summoner nevertheless.
Yeah, I think that works out all right, though, for Scout. I mean, the Ghost not going to be too valuable. Still has that flash as well in case anything goes completely awry. So, I mean, Scout going to be all right. Even XinLiu roaming up here as well, because you got the reset from Wink off that third wave crash to pick up 2 longswords. And I think this is the right call from IG. Like, trying to outpace Viper on this bot side with items is always going to be a good shout.
XinLiu, I guess part of that new partnership between mid-jungle of Invictus Gaming. A bottom side scuttle for top side scuttle right now seems to be the trade, as Jiejie has the information and can just look to take that out easily. He'll be spotted out in a ward by IG as well that was placed by Zika. And Dagda, we didn't actually get to talk about this top side all too much, and Gwen has been nerfed. She has lost some of her power, which, I'll be honest, always feels nice.
Yeah, she was a little bit oppressive in previous patches, but the big one is that the E cooldown refund that you get from the auto attack went from 60% to 50%, and that is actually the initial buff that we saw bring her back into competitive play. But not only has she been hit by that as well, she's also got her W cooldown is up by 4 seconds, the magic resist on it is also down, and the armor on it as well is also down. So there's quite a lot that she's lost. But I think the big thing is just how, and even, sorry, her Riftmaker as well has gone from 80 AP down to 70 AP. So you are actually seeing like quite a lot of nerfs to her kit and the items that she likes to pick up. But I think that's where, even with that, just the fact that Grievous Wounds has been nerfed, she has late game scaling in her kit, like she still does reasonably okay. Just because she is just such a powerhouse regardless anyway when she gets the late.
We'll see if it transitions out. We know LPL players can be quite stubborn. As while we've been chatting away, just note that the camera has been fixed on the bottom lane. Jiejie moves to bot, control ward down, but backs off. And it's all about the trading in the 2v2. Wink and Viper always throwing out these cues. And you can see that damage from Wink is starting to ramp up, but it's even for the time being. The wave slowly pushing by EDG. And so no actions happen in the early stages. It's just going to be adoration stacks built up and the opportunity, if it can come through, from Shun to build up Wink and XinLiu.
And we need to see that, because slowly but surely, this sign is, or sorry, this early game will go in favor of EDG. Flandre has the call, he's got push on top side, he's got really good control there, and as we said, like, Flandre getting hurt with the nerfs means he's going to take even more punishment from this Kennen in the lane phase. And if EDG are able to use that punishment from top side to get things like Rift Herald, you know, get gold in towards Viper, again, great scaling on EDG's side with their lane matchups. No exhaust again on IG side means Flandre is going to be huge. Like, you have to be so careful about this team fighting for IG.
And that was kind of the problem in game number 2, where EDG didn't give away much in the early game, and they got to coast their way through a pretty swift game. You know, EDG did take control, but still no opportunities given over to IG when they had similar styles. You talked about the similarities here, Dagda, and I see a similarity with Jiejie once again towards the top side. Not finding a gank, though. So, for the first time this series, at 6 minutes, I'm surprised that we have no blood.
They're just trying to link up with Scout here, it looks like. Still going to move up towards this top side. Like, I don't see why you don't gank Zika here. Like, he's overextended, the lane's in a good spot, and no vision there, but EDG, very worried about movement here from XinLiu off the spot side.
He's moved up. The level 4 Nautilus, no dredge line thrown out. Jiejie and Scout paying the respect, even with the Chaos Storm. Knowing that Yuekai can join, I guess, so Zika just takes it. Thank you very much. And that'll help even up the CS up at the top side. Yeah, surprising. Jiejie's been very passive so far in this early game.
They're weird roam times from the supports, though. Like, usually around this time, because we're about to hit the 7-minute mark, you will have the supports very much teed around bot side. Even generally have the junglers play around bot side as well to, like, allow push in for one side, so then you can rotate up towards the Rift Herald. Now, XinLiu will still get back down in time, and you can see Jiejie is also making his way down here. So, without the support of their own jungler, IG might be in trouble if Jiejie decides to pay a visit to this bot lane.
Yeah, look how big that wave is. And eventually come through, and as Shun positions towards the top side, Jiejie has an angle. Now, level 6 here as Flandre is going to get tagged down. He's got the flash available, but the Slicing Maelstrom comes through first, then the Summon of the Heartbreaker. They go deep for the vibe, as that's a beautiful wall. Nails him backwards, and IG will take it all.
Nicely done by IG, get the kill, wave will be lost as well, and that should set them up nicely to go for a Rift Herald on top side. Jiejie, as you can see as well, isn't interested in trying to move down towards his bot side and look for the cross map. He is moving his way back up towards this top end to see if he can be in a position to counteract this Rift Herald play.
And even though Gwen got nerfed, Dagda, giving first blood over to Zika, that's going to be a big impact. Remember that Gwen is still just a pain in the bum, no matter what patch it is, so... Still feels nice here for IG as you mentioned that Herald, everyone moving up. Wink's going to be taking red buff at 8 minutes. Now, as a jungler, you'd see this and be like, it's a little early, but Wink thinks otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, he just knows that realistically, Shun won't be able to play down towards the spot end. There's always the opportunity for EDG to, like, counteract the play up towards Rift Herald and cross map down in towards the bot side, and then you just lose the red buff anyway. So happy to give that across towards Wink and give him a little bit more fighting power here, as it looks like we are going to have a big scrap over this with EDG already in position in river.
But look at the ults that aren't available. Flandre without the Slicing Maelstrom, but versus that, Yuekai without the Weaver's Wall. Shun the Heartbreaker. Yuekai now caught out of stretch line. Doesn't connect. Zika, he doesn't have the needlework. So EDG with an ult advantage as that W keeps zoning out from Viper, but XinLiu adamant on going in. 2.7, 2.5, 2.4, zoning more from Scout as IG group is a 5-man, but Herald goes down and they get nothing. Wink didn't get to stay in the lane either, so a net positive for EDG as Zika goes left where the rest of IG are right. They're still fighting. XinLiu flashes in, but the lightning crash down from Viper gives him space. IG, you lost the Herald, but now you want to fight as the needlework comes back up. It could be okay as the Fed Gwen hits everyone, and Adoration stacks are being sought out by Wink. The axe is spinning, the flash is burnt, and Invictus Gaming going so aggressive. EDG lose their top laner, but you can see that Viper wants a little bit more. Wink and Shun running for the hills, and after that, Dagda, I think I'm getting fired up for what this game could be.
It's a 1-for-1 trade, but the Rift Herald does go in favor of EDG. Viper, the one who picked that one up on the backside of the fight, but we see it here, like, flash forward from XinLiu, tried to get Viper, but really good reactions from Viper to hop over the wall. It means that he doesn't actually get caught, and that means you don't get the main damage dealer on EDG's side. Timing here from IG was pretty strong, where you did have that ultimate coming back up from Zika, but again, without XinLiu here, they just don't really have these big engage tools to help close the gap, especially with Scout having Ghost, Viper getting the speed up from his ultimate as well, even slows from Meiko. Trying to keep these fights going are going to be so hard from IG. They need that one big punch, and that has to stick, or IG just can't follow up.
Look after that fight. There's 3 summoners up, not including Smite. Flash from Viper and Meiko maintained, and Wink preserved his as well. Just kind of showing you the lengths IG went to after the Herald was taken. And as we come back to live, I'm glad you pulled that out. Viper actually has the Herald in his back pocket. And here at 10 minutes in the game, as Wink pushes up, worth mentioning considering that they're going to stay in the lane while Dragon is now live. Dagda, will it change the tide for EDG, I'm wondering?
I mean, EDG's still in a good spot overall in the game. It's more of a case of how well they can try and contest on towards the Dragon, but I don't see how they're going to be able to really go for this. Already you've got push mid, jungler's already on it for IG. Wink and XinLiu still contesting the bot 2v2, so Viper doesn't get to put it down. And yeah, you can see Jiejie, he's even backed off this. They're instead just going to look to see what else they can do on the map.
Flandre altered, by the way, on top of the wave to get a quick clear up in this top side, but that's almost up and available once again. Don't worry about it. As EDG lose yet another dragon, at the very least, IG had this early game in terms of that neutral objective. Jiejie now back up here. This is going to be Flandre without an ultimate, by the way. Looking for a stun on Zika, but, I mean, the ward was just cleared. Zika knows.
Oh, good roam from Viper, though. Look where Yuekai and Shun are. They want to try and turn this player on top, but they don't know that EDG's bot lane is on the way.
Well, the Weaver's wall to start it off, looking for a seismic shove here onto Jiejie. They find it as Shun is inside the circle and gets a reset. An audacious charge stolen away with a Heartbreaker on top. Is Viego not going to get a second chance as Meiko and Vapor have arrived? I called him Meiko. That's a crime in itself. Viper would kill me too.
Because they're so damn large on the play. We said it, EDG, a great roam from their AD carry and bot lane, and IG caught unaware. Now Viper going to get all these plates on the top side. Look, it's all nice that we got a split screen, but there's no splitting here. Viper is going to get this tower for himself. Gorgeously done by EDG.
Oh, he's 3-0 again, Dagda. 3-0 again. This Zeri that was left open, that EDG first picked, might I add, you know, give it away after Viper got that 42% damage graph in game number 2. It just feels like it's set up to tear once again with a 2k gold lead. At 13 minutes, all of a sudden, IG's play flipped on its head and the early game going over to EDG handedly at this point.
And, I mean, this is where you start to get the wheels coming off the train for IG. They're trying to make plays with Yuekai on this ult, but again, like, they just haven't been able to find success with it. Like, really nice job at the get-go. They get the quick kill on Zika, but I think at this stage, especially when you see Vipers here, you just back away after this. You know, wherever Viper goes, Meiko is sure to follow. And because IG try to commit for too much more, Scout even managed to get up here with the Ghost alongside Meiko. And it's just 5 men top for EDG versus the 3 of IG.
Rough times. EDG now moving to the bottom lane as we come back into the next turret. Plating still available for 15 seconds as Flandre is going to save a little bit of the top turret, whatever he can. But Viper and Meiko still share in the rewards of the leftover plating. And plating tonight in the top side from Zika. Dagda, in this early game, I see an Immortal Shield Bow, but I see 3 other mythics alongside it. A very strong EDG, and while there's 3 mythics here, which I don't need to talk about as depth charge comes through, IG in a bit of trouble because Jiejie's joined in golden, but Wink can't save him. Scout's even moving down as well. This turns from a nice pick into a big dive incoming for Wink.
And there's no help to come, although as I say, that TP coming in, Wink has so many stacks, he needs the help.
Yeah, he does. Doesn't want to die before getting in that cash in. Zika helps him out, but look at topside. Flandre's now going to get a free push.
Yeah, and this is where it's that push-pull, but Shun gonna see if he can get a bit more in favor of IG.
Yeah, he now knows he's going to be spotted out. The lockdown comes through. Slicing Maelstrom there. Remember, this is a Protobelt Kennen. The ultimate misses well, and Shun is in so much danger. Weaver's wall, will it be in the nick of time? It's still going to be a trade. Flandre with 1. Yuekai comes in late to the party, but Shun getting battered around by a small man with electricity.
I mean, there was a 3-level advantage for Flandre in that one. That was always going to be a brave move, especially when the Heartbreaker misses. And unfortunately, Yuekai just not in the right place at the right time. So 1 trade back, and EDG still winning out across the board.
What can go wrong at this point? It's a little bit more bruised than game number 2, Dagda. A little bit more kills over to IG, but EDG are moving around the map consistently, finding these picks now.
And look at the amount of vision control EDG have on this bottom side. Like, that's why XinLiu gets completely cut off here and caught off guard, because he just doesn't realize how many members of EDG are there. And here, Flandre, I mean, 3-level advantage over in favor of the Kennen. Kennen has been pretty strong as well, even getting the flash away. Like, Yuekai is here in plenty of time, but just doesn't realize how quickly this is about to go south, so doesn't actually use the Weaver's Wall to get there as soon as possible.
Gold at about 3,500. Dragon coming up in 25 seconds. Now, Dagda, IG got the first 2, but with the strength of EDG, with Viper being 4-0, it does feel like EDG should be comfortable moving into this next fight, especially when I see a stopwatch on someone like Scout, when I see almost a second item completed on Viper. Meiko having a stopwatch too. A lot of pacing available for EDG's next fight.
It feels like IG agree with you there, because they're not even going to go for it. They're going to use this push in top side instead, said with Rift Town, to try and trade as much as possible back for the Dragon. And I think it's the right call. For IG, they are a composition that wants to try and use side lanes efficiently, with Zika being able to beat Flandre, Yuekai having more map movement than Scout, especially with Scout opting for the Ghost and the Flash. So trying to open up the map is going to work out a lot better for them.
This mid lane turret is dead. Wink and XinLiu can't defend. EDG with yet another 3-1 in turrets as well, by the way. At least Yuekai adding pressure up on this top side. But for IG, it's going to have to be a pretty big hero play. We're going to have to be a pretty big next couple of minutes. Dagda, we talked a lot about what the early game was. I guess, you know, we have Gwen, we have Viego still for IG, but when you consider that Draven hasn't cashed in, when Yuekai once again hasn't been able to do too much here on the Taliyah, looking at EDG's side, that scaling is still the easiest thing to call.
And that's why I think IG here needs to, like, send Yuekai back top lane, push out that wave, have Zika, who's now pushing out bot side as well, getting control there. And then what you're going to do is very quickly try and collapse on mid lane and use the fact you have this Rift Tail to catch members of EDG out. But as you can see at the moment, Yuekai not actually moving up towards the top side, so EDG don't need to try and keep pressure over these side lanes, and it means they're in a position now to actually contest IG if they try to put down this Rift Tail.
They'll be cleansed out of vision, Invictus Gaming, with this next ward going down. So even though no dragons available, we're grouping up down towards the bottom side of the map, defending EDG's outer turret as Meiko goes in deep, but IG won't be caught with their pants down. Zika, still a Gwen, remember, can buy a lot of time herself. But EDG are not giving up any vision at this point and will continue going towards this inner turret, making sure that IG can't even walk into their own jungle on the red side.
And this is the thing, right? Now Yuekai is moving up towards the top side, but you don't have that pressure on the top side now to match with the pressure on bot side. So now Zika going to reset, but the wave is in a position where EDG, after controlling this bot side of the map, can move over and threaten this tier 2. So just the windows of opportunity that IG could have taken now starting to shut down. But they have the Rift Tower now in position on top, and they're going to look to try and race EDG.
And this is a small minion wave, being backed up by another, but Zika, XinLiu getting here, Wink controlling mid. Turret will go down as Flandre has made his way back to defend. Next charge is a bit of a mystery, but at the very least, IG trying to be proactive with this. Getting up to the turret as well, be hard as Flandre. I think we need to enlarge that picture because he flashes away. Flandre lives golden. One more ticket comes through from Yuekai. I don't want to see what's on my screen. The small picture will be a replay, Dagda, but boy, Flandre decides to trade again.
I mean, that's always the problem with the LPL, right? Not looking big picture. That's what we need was the big picture. But seriously, really well played by Flandre. Getting the kill on that denies the push on towards the top tower. And here's the replay here of, as that goes in, knowing that Shun trying to go that bit too far forward, flashes in, the damage is there, and Flandre just really nicely able to get that kill.
Oh. Ticks over. Yuekai with the trade, but it's just like what we saw in the top lane only 5, 6, 7 minutes ago. Flandre trades once again. He's been the target of attention by Invictus Gaming. But turrets stay standing, Dagda. Flandre, he might die, but Yuekai's unable to push the remainder of that inhibitor turret. So IG looking for these windows, and this is what we kind of talked about in game number 2. They were so far behind that they needed to get these picks off. They've been really struggling with it in this game too, and I don't know what more to say rather than that IG are in a difficult position. even if it is only a 4,000 gold lead from EDG.
And now IG still trying to see if they can get control of the map, but unfortunately it's just not going to be there. EDG, they're the ones with the tempo, they're the ones with the control, and they have the opportunity now to start to both threaten over towards more dragons in a minute's time, but also just establish vision control over Baron so they can make sure IG aren't going to try and rush that one down. But it's going to be really hard for IG to actually get anywhere on the map with the waves in the position that they are.
I'd be taking a good photograph of this game for EDG. It's an easy sell right now as to why they're one of the best teams, and still coming into the series, we're like, oh, EDG's been suffering recently, but they still have these brilliant games. Like game number 2 is, we're going to see the miss used by Shun, angling for Jiejie, but he's got his boys behind him. Dagda, I ran out of Nickelback songs. I started with Photograph.
I was going to say, I was like, is this a Nickelback throwback? And I was like, oh, damn. And then it's like, yeah, it's like, this is how you remind me. Photographs.
Yep, nice.
And then that's kind of the extent of my Nickelback.
Saving Me,
knowledge.
I think is another one as well.
Okay.
I should know more. Burn It to the Ground.
Oh, Rockstar. Wasn't there a Rockstar? Yeah, that's one.
Yeah. But now we've not really weaved it in because we're just all over the place and remembering Nickelback songs.
Viper is looking like a rock star in this one as they move over. But yeah, I mean, the problem is, I remember slight throwbacks to Nickelback from when I was like 14, 15. I was like, oh yeah, these had like songs that existed. But I can't actually tell you the last time I listened to a Nickelback song.
The embarrassing thing is I've listened to them recently. That's why I'm annoyed. I can't remember what some of their songs are. You know, Burn It to the Ground. We've already said Rockstar, and kind of left at this point. You know, think about Nickelback songs. Did you just plonk
on an album, or was it like you know, it happened to come on the radio?
No. I definitely plonked it on. I definitely threw it on Spotify because that's what I do now. Because my partner pays for Spotify and my fiance pays for Spotify. And yeah,
it's like that meme that's going around on Twitter at the moment. She's a 10, but she makes you listen to Nickelback.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's so harsh. Oh god. At least we're getting a Baron set up, Dagda, to get us out of this one, because EDG want IG to come and try and do something. They're getting side turrets in the meanwhile, though. So EDG have to pick a plan because Zika is uncontested here in a 5 versus 4. Now because Baron's here, Flandre's ulti flies through onto Shun, who wants to steal, but he's caught out. And IG fell into the trap. Wink, Yuekai, and Zika all left by themselves as Whirling Death does a lot, but Wink just needs to cash in. Can he get his gold? His mark finally, no. Adoration sent to hell. And EDG were just waiting for IG to slip up.
That's a bit of shock and awe there from EDG. Flandre coming in with the beautiful ultimate, followed up by the overcharge from Viper. There's nowhere for IG to run, and EDG destroyed them. You see it here. Shun does manage to dodge away from the zap, but afterwards, Flandre picking up one, and watch as Viper comes over this wall. The amount of damage that comes out in a matter of moments as EDG all tumble over the wall to take down IG.
IG acting like today was their last day, and you know, it is in the series. EDG have now taken more than firm control, have shown us back-to-back games that they're not only the better team, but they've got a reputation to uphold. Yuekai slammed as the final nail in the coffin, and Viper's doing it again, 7-0-3. Why did they give this man, this champion, in Game 3 as well?
I mean, it's such a strong pick, but overall, that was just EDG. Great positioning, great turn, and there was just little that IG can do. And despite Game 1 going so well for IG, they just couldn't replicate that success. And now sitting 9,000 gold down in Game 3, EDG with Baron, and only one outer turret remaining. It's not looking good for IG right now.
Especially with shots like that. The Ultra Shock Laser from Viper puts Yuekai down a quarter. That's because he's got 3 items and another Zeal, and he's pushing through turrets like nobody's business. EDG, when they stand together, looks so strong in this game, Dagda. 006 from Scout as well. Another quiet achievement game like he had on the Corki. They're approaching the base now as well, and there's so many Fed members to deal with a 10k just about gold lead. IG going to make their last stand, and XinLiu, he's got to walk before he can run, because EDG have crippled him, and I don't know, this is just getting dark. All I can say is he's dead.
EDG just say XinLiu as they absolutely demolish the Nautilus. Now they're onto the top lane turret, and there's zero that IG could do. Like, who even tries to engage this?
Well, maybe Zika finds something with the needlework, because I'm struggling as well. Xun is in a great flanking angle, but still so far behind us at 10k. EDG are going to spot him out now, but they're strong enough, breaking down yet another turret. Meiko absorbs. Seismic shovel of Flandre turns him to dust, and Viper is doing exactly the same. Look at this Zeri go as Xun can't hold a candle. Viper is unleashed, the best AD carry in the LPL, nay, the world, which I'll be happy to support. From anyone who watches the LPL, I know you agree, because Viper's unleashed yet again and continues to show us why he must be respected.
That was absolutely insane. Viper, I think, is on like, what, maybe near 30 KDA on Zeri after these two games. Like, holy moly, that was nuts. But so well played by EDG again, like taking it slow, finding their advantages around the neutral objectives. And there is just little that IG could do. They never got a look in.
I'm just impressed. You know, paint a picture of EDG after the two games we've seen. It's a complete turnaround, a really good read of Invictus Gaming, and another great bot lane experience from Viper and Meiko. And it's really hard, you know, to make a statement like, you know, Viper's the best in the world, but I feel like, especially in the 2v2, Viper and Meiko is a great sell for one of the strongest bottom lanes. Because Dagda, when we see games like that, when we see the consistency come through, it's amazing. Now, they tragically died at level 1 in game number 1. You know, they got obliterated. They have moments like that as well. But some really clean performances when we talked about EDG, focusing more on the bottom lane through the laning phase and getting out unscathed as this time they definitely did.
Yeah, and I think that's the big difference here was like when you look at game number 1 with the Draven, we had 3-4 kills going very quickly over the Wink, but without Xun being able to play around that bot side, as we said, like on the weaker side of the jungle match. Sorry, yeah, Xun being able to play on the bottom side because he had the weaker side of the jungle matchup. It meant that there wasn't as much pressure towards Wink. Viper and Meiko were able to kind of feel out the early laning phase. And from that point forward, with Jiejie on the Xin Zhao, finding those engages, setting up the fights, Viper was just picking up kills all over the place.
Oh, man, as you expect. Zeri getting let through 2 games in a row. I don't know what you think about this one, Dagda, but IG were like, it's not Zeri that's the problem. However, I think it was part of the problem, and I think it's part of something that IG will come to regret.
Yeah, it may not be 100% of the problem, but I'd say it was a solid like 75-80% of the problem.
Yeah.
She is so strong, and even you could see the fact that you had such long range between the Viktor and also the Zeri, having that poke with the W now involved in her kit, means that it's very, very difficult to try and approach this team. And again, we're kind of seeing a lot of teams fall back towards Nautilus as the sole engage tool. And I'm not the biggest fan of it, because Nautilus himself doesn't actually end up that tanky, especially if you end up running Glacial Augment. And then when you add into the equation as well that you kind of got like one punch to kind of make it happen. Like you land in the hook, you throw in the depth charge, and that's you done for a significant period of time. And if you have a team that's able to kite back from that initial depth charge and then remount their offense, that's where you can see that you really start to run into problems. And that was something that we saw kind of throughout this with IG, where XinLiu would try and go for an engage, but there'd be no kind of follow-up there immediately. EDG kite back, Flandre even can interrupt with the ultimate himself, and then EDG are able to pounce forward.
This time, Dagda, I'm sorry to say that Viper did not get more damage than the whole of IG, but once again, very close. I think a couple of thousand in IG's favor, but it just shows you, like, incoming next MVP. Even though Flandre survived 2 1v2